Hello and welcome. This video presentation will discuss best practices for attribution statements. Once you've reached the point where you are ready to share the OER material that you have created, remixed, or found, you must complete one crucial step, creating attribution statements. This video will review the 5 R's and Creative Commons licensing, attribution statements and how they are defined, key elements, creation and placement of attribution statements, an example of an online generator, as well as references you can turn to. Before we get to attribution statements, we will first start by reviewing the 5 R's of OER and the Creative Commons license. An OER's open license grants permissions by the original author for you to retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. All Creative Commons licenses contain an attribution by clause. This means that you must include a statement that gives credit to or attributes the creator of the work from whom you have borrowed, whether it's text, an image, a video, or other item. If you have altered the work in any way, indicate that in your attribution statement. The most widely used open licenses are issued through Creative Commons, a global nonprofit organization. They make it possible for creative works to be freely and legally shared. Each license comes with a set of conditions that the author wishes to apply to their work, and that specifies how the work can and cannot be used by others. But regardless of the license chosen, they all require you to meet one shared condition called attribution, marked by an icon of a person enclosed by a circle. So, what are attribution statements? Attributions are clear, simple statements that contain key elements used to credit the original author of openly licensed material. This is where credit is given and where credit is due. Attribution statements are similar in idea to scholarly citations, but with some key differences. Here are some key differences between scholarly citation and an OER attribution statement. A scholarly citation is used for academic and legal purposes. Copyrights are not shared with the general public by the copyright holder. It's intended to protect the author from plagiarism or copyright infringement. It's used to quote or paraphrase a limited portion of the restricted work, and a reference list of cited resources are typically placed at the end of the work. An OER attribution statement is used for legal purposes. Copyrights are shared with the general public by the copyright holder. The author gives advance permissions to use their work, and it's used to quote or paraphrase all or a portion of a restricted work. Attributions are found on the same page as the resource. Now you may be asking yourself, what key elements should I include in an OER attribution statement? You can remember the key elements by using the acronym TASL. An attribution statement should include information about the title, author, source, and license of the material. How do I create attribution statements? In terms of creation, proper attribution statements must be created for each remixed item. An easy way to do this is to use an online tool like Open Attribution Builder created by Open Washington. Determining proper placement for an attribution statement can be a bit tricky. Where and how depends on the type of medium. Let's review some examples. Attribution for photos and images should be placed under the photo or at the end of a post with an embedded photo. The title, author, source, and license are always noted in an attribution statement. In the case of modified images, provide the reason for modification. As we can see in this example, this photo has been desaturated from the original, and this is described in the attribution statement. Images from which a derivative work is created will be placed under the photo or at the end of a post with an embedded photo. Identify that the work is a derivative and identify the new author as well. Place text where it naturally makes sense, such as immediately preceding or following the work, or as a footer where the work appears. As always, include the author, source hyperlink, title, and licensing information. Place videos or film near the work as it appears on the screen or as a bumper at the start or end of a video. Include the relevant attribution information with the work when it appears on screen during the film. If this is not possible, attribute the work in the credits, just as you would see with music in a commercial film. The most common type of OER is published and distributed on the internet in digital formats. This includes websites, web pages, PDFs, online tools, videos, etc. As such, the attribution for a digital OER is the most common type of attribution and makes a good introduction to creating attributions. As seen previously, it contains the four key elements: title of the work, author-creator statement, source or link to the original work, and license. Here's an attribution made with Open Attribution Builder. Note that the title, author, creator, and license include links to their respective sites. Most OER appears on the web or in digital formats with hyperlinking functions, so it can be useful to share these links in an attribution statement. If OER materials are published in print formats, books, posters, etc., hyperlink text will need to be removed. However, it is good practice to spell out the link to the original source, as in this example. Once OER start to be combined and merged, knowing how to properly attribute multiple sources can sometimes become problematic. We'll use an example of a typical Philosophy 101 topic, Socrates. Biographical information has been combined from an open Philosophy 101 lecture with some openly licensed critical commentary from Wikipedia, followed by appropriate open license attributions. This example is related to an academic course context. Let's take a look at this example. In this example, the two texts work well together. However, their respective attribution statements break the flow of reading. For students who require the assistance of screen reading devices, these attribution statements can be very disruptive. Hearing a robotic voice read aloud attribution statements immediately after every source in a remixed OER would be monotonous and distracting. Not all instructors using multiple sources to create OER will need to remix them. It may be easier to provide links to videos, chapters of online texts, and so on. However, instructors who seek to mash up several sources will want to consider different ways to attribute multiple sources individually that can be used to attribute remixed OER. There is no perfect solution, but here are a couple of ideas that can help. The first option is to link lists with terms of use statements. One best practice for attributing multiple sources is to link lists to each source in an attribution section at the bottom of the page that the content appears on. The example shown here is an open composition course provided by Lumen Learning, attributes all the sources that were used on one page of a module. The second option is to add it to the syllabus in an academic context. If the remixed OER makes significant use of a few resources, it's a good idea to make note of it upfront in the course syllabus. This should not be the sole attribution statement, but it will make it clear to the reader where the original source material is from. The Philosophy 101 course syllabus at Saylor Academy provides an excellent example. Ideally, attributions should be placed as close as reasonably possible to the work. However, with videos, it just doesn't make sense. In this case, it can be an acknowledgement at the beginning or end of the video with all of the necessary information, such as the title, author, creator, and source and license. As we saw previously, let's review another example of an attribution statement for a modified image. Elements include derivative of statement, title and author of the original work, license information, identify changes made, and the name of the person who made the changes. Here is an example of a mixed media work. It contains a mashup of music, photo, and video. When providing attribution statements, the information can be placed at the beginning or at the end of the video. This is an example of attribution for a self-published guide published by BC Campus Open Publishing requiring attribution for multiple works. The title, author, source, and license are part of the attribution with links where available. This attribution statement can be found at the bottom of the page. When providing attribution for an audio file or podcast, you must mention the title and source of your material along with owner or author as well as any license that applies. This information is generally published at the source where the podcast or audio file information can be found. Attribution for a podcast episode can be verbally mentioned before or after an episode. It should be listed with the episode information on the hosting platform. Can I use an online generator to make attribution quick and easy? The answer is yes. There are free online attribution builder tools to help you generate attribution statements. To do this, access the Open Attribution Builder. It's a free online tool used to make attribution easy. Remember, TASL. Simply place the title, author, source, and license information in the appropriate fields. The tool will automatically generate a correctly formatted attribution statement to place on the OER. And for reference, this is what the Open Attribution Builder site looks like. If you would like to learn more about this topic in more detail, please view the resources listed in the following slides. If you would like to utilize this resource, please provide attribution under the Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 4.0 International License as indicated on the screen. Thanks for listening.